Take it away, Mark.
Well, big news this week. The biggest news story, obviously. I was awoken by Colin Cowherd on my alarm clock to find out that Randy Moss had been traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Do we have any sound effects, explosions here? No?
No.
Okay, so big news, big news. Lots of fantasy implications for Randy Moss going to the Vikings. JJ, what's the biggest one?
Well, I would just like to celebrate this decision as a Vikings fan, first of all.
That's right, oh my God, JJ!
And as a Randy Moss owner in one of my leagues, second of all. But yeah, this is, and I was actually driving home from work at 4 a.m. when the news broke. And it was rather, woke me up on the way home. But I think the big implication for Randy Moss is he pretty much has not been used in New England this year.
No.
They haven't targeted him. They haven't thrown the ball. He's caught some touchdowns because he's just such a great red zone target. But in Minnesota, he's going to get targeted. His receptions are going to go way up. He can still play ball.
Oh, Brett Favre's coveted him forever.
Yeah,
he wanted
Brett
him when he's back in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brett Favre was horribly upset with the Green Bay management when he got traded to the Raiders. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great move for Minnesota. I think it opens up for Percy Harvin. I think it opens up for the entire offense. You can't stack the box against the run as much anymore. The big question, Favre, as we were talking earlier, looks a little. Yeah. His touch is a little off, but he's been getting hammered because the right side of the line is terrible. So I think maybe this opens Favre back up too.
I think it does. I mean, I understand the concern about Favre's accuracy not being as good or whatever. But here's a player where, I mean, look, Randall Cunningham wasn't considered the most accurate quarterback.
No.
But all he had to do was just chuck that thing really high and really far, and Randy Moss will go up and get it. Yeah, he can still do that. He's
Randy Moss has
threat.
like fly paper hands. Like that catch he made last week, it doesn't even, the ball hits his hand and stops moving. It just sticks. If I did that, it would bounce off my hand. I mean, it just, bam, done, touchdown.
Yeah, Randy Moss
he's been like
has
that his whole career.
Like mine.
Yeah, that's a big hand.
That's a large hand.
Other implications here. What about a guy that I happen to own on my team, Percy Harvin? Adam, what are the implications?
I really think this is the best news for Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin's been seeing a lot of double teams this year. He's not going to see those anymore. Those are all going Randy Moss's way. Percy Harvin's the style of player that complements a guy like like Moss, who's also a lot like Rice. I mean, they're very similar. They spread the field. They go deep. They can catch the deep ball. They got great hands. Moss is actually, future Hall of Famer. Rice, we don't know about.
And Rice was drafted to, as soon as they traded Moss, they made draft picks of, who can be the next Randy Moss on our team. And Rice was their second attempt.
I actually think this is really bad news for Rice, though. I think this is the Vikings. They might not be saying it out loud, but they're saying he's not coming back week 8. He might not be back this year at all, but it's going to be a little while longer, because otherwise you don't need a Moss. If he's coming back in 2 weeks, you just wait for that.
Well,
that's not
if you can get a Randy Moss for a 4th-round draft pick.
I think it was a third round. Still,
Marshawn Lynch was 4th. Third-round draft pick. You get a future Hall of Famer for a 3rd-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Right. Now, here's another thing. Now, Claire, I know that, like JJ, you like guys that are small and fast. What kind of implications does this have for, say, a Julian Edelman or Wes Welker on the Patriots? How do you assess that?
I think, I think for the Patriots, I think it doesn't really, I'm not going to say it doesn't affect them, but I think it opens things up for people like Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. I think they're going to see a little bit more action. I think it's good for them.
Yeah. And
Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, you should have read that totally wrong.
And Aaron Hernandez.
You should have said rookie loser. No, second, whatever.
I think, and Aaron Hernandez is probably going to, I think his numbers will go up for sure. But I was all set to talk about Favre. So
great. Well, really, that's another thing. So what about Brett Favre?
Well, I think maybe he just needed a little rest, and I think the bye week will. I don't like Brett Favre.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be a little bit more positive.
So it's like,
And so I think maybe he just needed the bye week. I think they're going to come out super explosive this week. So I think in the short term, at least, this for the Vikings is going to be make a huge impact, and I think they're all going to get a lot better. And
to be fair, the reason she doesn't like Brett Favre is he is neither fast nor small.
Right.
But
you know what a game to circle
Woodhead.
is for Moss is when he plays the Patriots.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
time Moss feels that someone has wronged him,
Oh, he's going to blow up.
he goes out and just destroys them.
Do the Vikings play the Patriots this
Yeah,
year?
Yeah, they play them in like 3 or 4
Nice.
weeks. Yeah.
Nice.
Halloween, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know,
they
and-
play the whole AFC.
Another interesting
That's
thing
why they're
about
the Jets
this,
on
and
Monday.
this is great news for Moss owners, Minnesota just had their bye. New England has it now. He has no
Right.
bye week this year.
Right.
You don't have to bench Randy Moss for the entire season. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah.
point. Great point.
So
Now, what about, Adam, talk about a couple of these guys, you mentioned them before, a guy like a Bernard Berrien, a guy like a Greg Camarillo. Are they still in the picture at all?
they're dead to me. They're completely, I mean, in barring injury, they might get a catch here or there, but the pecking order there is now Moss, Harvin, Shanko about on the same level, Peterson, and then those guys get whatever's left over, which isn't going to be much. Neither one of them was able to fill the role that Favre wanted. Favre's the kind of guy that if you're not hooking up with him quick and you're not getting those catches quick, he doesn't even pay any more attention to you. He's not one of those quarterbacks that helps guys develop that aren't good right out of the gate. Sidney Rice was awesome for him from game one, and he helped him develop a lot.
Yeah.
Camarillo and Berrien have
And
just
this is not just because Bernard Berrien stiffed you at the carving line at the Whole Foods in Minneapolis.
No,
This
no,
has nothing
but
to do
that
with
was my slice.
Right.
So
I
And we
understand.
didn't talk about Shank yet.
Shanko.
We'll see.
I think this is a golfing
The
par
size.
for him. I think he's going to be exactly how he was. I don't think it adds to or takes away from him. It's going to be the same. Favre loves him.
there
Hey,
you go.
there's both Shanko and
I
Shanko.
have to be quite honest with you. I actually think I think Shanko's red zone numbers are going to go down.
It might.
I think if he was the
agree.
big target in the red zone, he's not anymore. Randy Moss is a guy you can either throw the fade to the corner, you can get him on a quick out, you can get him on a crossing pattern. I mean, there's so many things you can do with Randy Moss in the red
Yeah.
zone that really don't require such precision timing. That's why I was talking
Yeah.
about him not having to be so accurate. You know, when Favre starts to do that lean back and he just lets it fly, he's got a good 5-10 yards laterally down the field where that ball can land anywhere. Moss will just go get it.
Yeah, and you're right. Shanko becomes the number 2 in the red zone now, which still isn't bad. He's still going to get. He's not going to be the first look. He'll be the second look. It's still not
Maybe.
bad.
Or if
that
now,
might be
what
reversed.
if now Harvin becomes the number 2 guy down there because he can get the underneath stuff?
Well, but Harvin is a lot like a Wes Welker. When you get inside the 20, they don't get a whole lot of opportunities there. They do their work in the middle of the field when the defense is a little more open. When those safeties can play up because you're on the 10-yard line, they're not as effective as they are in a big field.
small.
True.
But I do
Although
think
I have
Harvin's
seen
going to
him
get some
targeted.
yards.
Small
I have seen him
fast.
targeted a few times, and he has scored a couple inside 20. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see, and we'll revisit that in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks.
All right, what do we got next?
Great. Next news item. Big news. Well, we just kind of talked about this.
Yes, but we didn't talk about the implications for most other people.
Yeah.
Sure. The Seahawks acquiring Marshawn Lynch. There he is again. God, boy, Ratatouille teeth.
Mother must be
I don't
proud.
know, maybe not Ratatouille.
He's a
Maybe
handsome
something
devil,
else.
guys. I
He
mean,
is a
look
handsome
at
devil.
it.
Well, he's a devil, that's
You
for
want
sure.
your
He literally has
He-
$1 million smile.
Insane.
Literally.
Right, literally has $1 million smile. Look, Marshawn Lynch, great running back. This will be very interesting to those teams who are generally more patient than me, owners that are more patient than me, and held on to Marshawn Lynch,
Yeah.
like they should have, are really going to reap the benefits now.
And he escaped fantasy hell in Buffalo. Buffalo is it's the new Oakland.
It is the new fantasy
It's
purgatory,
now,
yeah.
Oakland's actually a little bit more respectable now. You go to Buffalo to end your career and stop putting up stats. I mean, they're really bad. They can't do anything. They showcased him, which is why we were talking about, hey,
Yeah.
this guy's going to get traded, and now he's on a team that is on the up, big time.
Yeah, I mean, in Seattle, he goes in and he's going to be the man, unfortunately, for my fantasy team.
Yeah.
But
Is
yeah,
there anything fortunate for your fantasy
you
team?
know, this year it appears not to be. It just, it happens. It happens. Everybody has a down year.
It's okay. There's
but-
always Farmville on Facebook.
There is.
But I think, he's going to step in. He's going to be the number 1 back that Pete Carroll has been looking for. Pete Carroll has been very hesitant to, even though last week it looked like Forsett was taking it away, obviously he still was not quite happy with where the run game was at. They
Yeah,
make
I
the
didn't-
move. Great move, giving up again, nothing.
Yeah, and of course they gave Leon Washington all those great looks last week. Leon Washington had 1 carry for 1 yard.
But we said that.
Yeah, but he's a kick
He's a-
returner.
right,
he's a kick
and a great one.
Right.
I think we
So
warned. I
much
think
for
we
that
warned
experiment.
against that last week.
Yeah.
So.
But, and then you look, and since this trade has all kinds of fantasy implications for my team, since I have Justin Forsett and I have CJ Spiller, who I think now is
Still on Buffalo, so
still on Buffalo, but given the right game, I think, maybe he bumps up to 50, 60 yards a game. I mean, he's a very talented player. They're obviously showing they're committed to him in the future by trading Lynch.
Well, they named Jackson the starter, but it's one of those situations where there's not really a start. I mean, he'll take the first carry of the game, but it's going to be a pretty even split.
It's a two-back menace where one will be better than the other one week, and they'll probably flip the next week.
Technically, Buffalo doesn't even really show up to play, so none of them can get considered starters.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because Spiller's a great talent.
They don't do anything in the middle either.
Yeah.
And they're
All right, well,
Jags.
let's move on to the next one. We're going to cover this a little bit in injury, but let's talk about the implications of this third story. You want to announce it here, Mark?
Sure. Clinton Portis. Out 4 to 6 weeks.
Kind of dropped late.
What has he got? Ankle?
It is a third-degree separation of the left groin.
Yes. Well, that's close to the ankle.
Yeah. Apparently, he was trying to do the splits.
It's
I don't know.
just this far away from the ankle with some people.
It's on the leg.
That's a long leg.
He's a big guy.
But this, of course, makes Ryan Terrain the starter in Washington. And the little I've seen of this guy, he's looked pretty good, fellas.
Yeah.
Ladies.
And if he's still somehow available in your league,
Pick him up.
Pick him up now. Stop. Just go now.
Yeah.
We're on. You're listening to us on a computer.
Yeah.
Open another window. Check your league. If he's available, get him because he's a hands down number one.
And realize this is a guy that Shanahan brought into Denver before he left and then brought to Washington. Shanahan is brilliant at finding these running backs out of nowhere. And this is really the first time Torian's going to get a guy. He didn't really get a shot in Denver. He was always behind somebody on that depth chart. Yeah, he was a little banged up too. And now he's going to he's the man. Yeah. So we're going to get to see if this guy
there's really nobody else in Washington to carry the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you would say, well, he's going to be the number one, but there's so-and-so. No, in Washington,
they're a run team. They're still, even with McNabb, they're a team that they open up the pass with the run. They're not letting New England. They don't open up the run with the pass. They go the other way.
They've got the Packers, and that's a pretty, we'll see.
It's a tough matchup with those linebackers.
But he's clearly a number one running back now who's not splitting carries.
Depending on your team, you might not want to start him this week. Can I take this last story, Mark?
Please.
Big news. Obviously, Holmes is back this week. Santonio Holmes. He's going to be a top 20, possibly top 15 wide receiver. And the way the Jets are playing, this immediately makes Sanchez better. This immediately opens it up for everybody more. It might bring Keller down a notch because Keller's been red zone target number one, and Holmes gets a lot of those deep. But it's not going to bring him down a lot. Keller's still great.
I think a big question with this is Santonio Holmes going to be effective, Adam, do you think, this week?
Yes.
Is there going to be an adjustment? You think he's one of those guys? I kind of feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a guy who he jumps right in and he's just going to be
he's
gold.
a veteran.
Yeah.
He's not going to
even though Braylon
much.
Edwards has looked good this season.
Yeah.
Which concerns me a little bit as a Holmes owner because I thought, well, if Braylon's a little bit off or whatever.
I think.
I still think he's going to be good.
Yeah, and when they say that they're suspended, it means they can't show up for practices and everything. But they're getting, this is what we're working on, study. He knows what he needs to be working on his own, and he's working out, and he's ready. He knows the playbook.
Yeah, like the return of Roethlisberger, who's been working with the quarterback's coach for the last 5 weeks to refine some throwing mechanics.
And of course, Pittsburgh's getting them messages about this is what we're doing, this is what we're planning, And that's the second side of the story is Roethlisberger obviously on a bye this week, but coming back next week. So this is a good time if somebody is foolish enough to have dropped him, pick him up or maybe even trade for him. Roethlisberger will be back, and he'll be brilliant. I think Mark and JJ are looking right now.